Yes, people, welcome back to What Does Your Mum Think? Stories from the Heart. Today's guest is a true legend of lettering and logo design. Today, I'm chatting with Michael Durrett, who has been creating iconic identities that have become part of popular culture. From designing the legendary New York Knicks logo to crafting title treatments for Disney, his works appeared everywhere, from sports arenas, cinema screens, record sleeves for Kiss, magazines, stamps, you name it, Michael's done it. Long before digital tools transformed the industry, Michael built a reputation for pure craftsmanship. Every curve, every flourish, every letter was drawn by hand, giving it a personality that's instantly recognizable and that has inspired generations of designers around the world, especially me sat here right now. Today, we're diving into the stories behind some of the world's most iconic lettering, what it was like creating work for everyone from Kiss to Disney to the NBA, and why handcrafting still matters in a digital world. Damn, this was a good one. Enjoy, people. Michael Durrett, it's an absolute honor to welcome you to What Does Your Mum Think? How are you feeling?
Today I'm feeling good. I had a good night's sleep, so that's
Yes.
always a positive. Let's go.
So I always tell my guests a little story about how I came across them and their work. So for you, Michael, it was through the uproar of the Knicks just winning the championships recently. It was on a random YouTube clip that I seen the guy who designed Knicks logo. So I did a deep dive and then found out you'd done work for Disney, you've done work for ballrooms and magazine cover, everything. And what I love about your work is everything feels like a prop, or like it feels like and and properly done, if that makes sense. And I love your style. So obviously I've got your book here and we're going to run this up today, growing up in Alphabet City, and we're going to get into this today. I've had the pleasure of diving deep
Okay.
into this over the past month or so. And again, what it feels like when I'm looking through it feels like a book filled with ephemera. Do you know what I mean? But like I'm speaking to the person who's designed it, and you know what I'm saying? Like it feels legit and crafted, and like I love it. And again, like, the way you speak about your reflections and the connections you've made. Again, we're going to get into this, but like obviously your mum was a teacher and stuff like that. With like the sewing machine, you noticed the logo on it and things like this. And so even the what feels like ephemera was inspired by old ephemera, and I'm so excited to chat to you today. I feel like I'm fanboying a little bit. I'm really grateful to have your time and grateful to have you on the podcast, Michael.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be here.
For sure, Michael. I've got 4 beats for you, right? So the first beat I'm going to kick off with is a kid from Brooklyn. So before we do get into it, simply put, how would you describe what you do so that a mum would understand?
So, I've always been pretty much aware that in general, people are not aware that when they see anything, a lamp, a magazine, anything that decisions had to be made about how it looks, there's somebody or many people perhaps behind that, and people just never think that somebody made this. Somebody thought about and made these decisions about this goes here or that goes there or this is blue or red. What I do is I solve communication problems, but with resorting to dealing with letter forms. I love to take letter forms, see what a particular word has, what the relationships are between those letters, and what I can do to make them into something more than what what they were before I got to it.
Yeah.
So I'll design logos, or it could be a magazine cover, or a poster, or a record jacket, anything that where words are involved. I can uh, work my thing onto those types of items and make them into something that perhaps that is more than what they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that simple enough for the moms out there?
I reckon so. My mum will be listening, so she'll for sure tell me. I think my mum gets what I do now. I send her enough stuff, and she listens to enough of these podcasts.
Uh,
But I think so, yeah. Solving
is your
communication.
mom proud of you?
I think she's very proud of me, Michael. I try and stay proud of myself as much as I can, but I don't feel it myself sometimes. But my mum's my biggest fan.
Because, I really think that impressing your parents or getting your parents' approval is one of the biggest motivating factors in one's life. I know for me, it was like trying to get a rise out of my parents and get their approval for things. Um, that was like that's one of the biggest things that pushed me forward to be trying to do my better and better work. That it's really important, I think. So your podcast is, I think, is aptly named.
Well, thank you. That's really to build on what you've just spoken about. Then your parents had in mind that you may become a lawyer, right?
That's right. Well, I would say though that my parents always would support me in
Mhm,
whatever
mhm.
I wanted to do. But I think, and I didn't even know this, when I was a kid, but I learned it from my high school art teacher, who I loved. He was in communication with my parents, and he recognized that there was something in me that needed to be developed, and he convinced my parents that being a doctor or a lawyer, or in my case, it was they thought I should be a lawyer, was not really my thing, and that he thought that I could get into Cooper Union, which is a very
Yeah,
difficult school
yeah,
to get into, and then once I did, my education there would be free.
yeah.
So that I think was that sold my parents on that idea.
Oh, I love it. Before we do get into the Cooper Union section, I want to speak about you was heavily inspired on reflection by the the Coney Island graphics, and you always seem to be very visual from a young age. Whether it was the logos on your mum's sewing machines and and stuff like that. Um, what do you remember about Brooklyn and Coney Island and stuff from back then?
Um, like you said, I was a very, for some reason, I don't know why, I was very visual. I mean, things, I just related to most things by how they looked. And
Mm,
I was just always fascinated by color and design, although I wouldn't have been able to verbalize that.
yeah,
But I would, for example, if on a summer's day, if the ice cream truck would come down our street, ringing its bell, and the kids would run out and want to order, some sort of ice cream pop or whatever. But I stood there and I would just be transfixed by the logo on the side of the truck. And I would just stare at it, and I didn't know why. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I was storing away all those kind of the visual stimuli, and
mm,
it would all later come out in my work. It was
yeah,
kind of interesting to discover that as an adult. Growing up in Brooklyn, we were quite close to Coney Island, and
yeah.
I would on summer's days, my friends and I would get on our bikes, and we would pedal over to go on all the rides, to go on in steeplechase, and just experience that whole thing. Nathan's hot dogs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which don't anymore taste like what they did then. But maybe that's just my imagination. I don't know. But I just was just like being in Coney Island. You'd be surrounded by all these incredible swirling colors,
Mm,
banners. signage, um, you know, Target games. Everything was beautifully designed, and I just stored all that away in my head for later use, I guess.
Yeah, you really have, and you can really see it injected in your work. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy how things work, isn't it? And how your mind at such a young age becomes just attracted to these things, and you end up spending the rest of your life doing it. So your mother was a teacher and your dad was a writer. I know your daughter's a writer, which is very wonderful. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a creativity that's threaded through the family. Yours has just come out in design, right?
I would say the artistic side
Yeah.
maybe was a little bit more from my dad's influence, being a writer, and he pretty much helped me learn how to write. And I wrote the book that you held up. I wrote that over a period of time, and I just kind of like when people started to take a look at the manuscript and all that, I was kind of shocked that everybody was saying, "Wow, that is so nicely written, and you're telling a great
Yes.
story there." And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just took it for granted. I'm just writing down, what I knew.
Yeah.
But I would credit my dad with that sort of thing, and my mother, it wasn't that she was creative, but she was really smart,
Mm.
and that so she became a teacher, and I developed maybe I would say maybe more my critical thinking from her influence.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but my dad was the really the creative one, and he had kind of given up his quest to become a successful writer when he had a family, and he had to support the family. So he got a job at MGM, the movie company,
Mm.
uh, doing foreign translations for and subtitles for MGM films.
Oh, really? Was it? That was in the old Times Square as well, weren't it? I read.
Yeah, yeah, 1540 Broadway. I remember that address
Wow.
so well.
Yeah, and again, like, juxtaposed with the Coney Island graphics, again, like Times Square back then.
Yeah, yeah,
I
the Great White Way they called it, or that
Yeah.
whole area. It was incredible. I mean, it's incredible now in a different way with all
Mm.
the computer huge
Yeah, yeah.
signage and graphics, but back then it was incredible in a whole other way. The billboards and so on they were still enormous, but for example, you had one giant billboard on the top of a building there that they had actual waterfalls. Another one was for Camel cigarettes. It blew smoke out over
Mad.
onto Broadway, and it was just great. And you had Mr. Peanut in his full
Yeah,
outfit,
yeah, yeah.
walking around giving away peanuts, and it was so visually between Coney Island and Times Square, where I'd go quite often to visit my dad. Uh, you had just like such a like it would almost be too much
Yeah.
visual stimuli.
And you're just absorbing it all.
Yeah,
Yeah, wild. It's crazy, is it? Because obviously I'm massive I love movies and, movies that depict Times Square back then. I was watching, what was it called? The new Frankenstein film, The Bride. The Bride? The
the
Bride,
bride.
yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's set, I can't remember the period, but it's sat back then when things that were obviously printed instead of digitalized boards and stuff like that, and immersed in a kind of old school New York setting. And it's got like a really beautiful romance to it, you know. Yeah, it's gorgeous. So moving into beat two and learning to see, you was at Cooper Union 1963 to 1967. You chose to study fine arts rather than graphic design. When did you first realize there was a career in design?
I really when I was going to Cooper Union, I thought I would be a fine artist because I didn't
Hmm,
really
hmm,
even know that there were jobs out there that which would be called graphic design. Um, I had no idea, and so but I mean, I could do it, and I realized whenever I did certain assignments, even in high school, I would apply graphic design principles to everything that I did, but I didn't really even know that was a thing. I thought to be, if you wanted to be in the arts and be creative when you were an adult to as a career path, I thought, well, I guess the only one is to be a fine artist,
hmm.
and so that's so you know I took sculpture and painting and life drawing and all those, and that's what was mostly offered at Cooper Union anyway. There really wasn't that much of a sense of um, promoting design education as there was fine arts. And in fine arts, they had the best teachers there. They had most of the teachers were all working artists and were known at the
Mm,
time. And so but even though I wasn't really studying graphic design for the most part in college, it was a great education, great introduction into the world of art and color and all that. And I don't regret a minute of that education. But I felt that at some point I realized that I needed to that I wasn't really that well suited for doing painting or sculpture or whatever.
mhm.
That my my strengths were in solving problems and solving communication problems. And so I ended up taking a couple of night classes at Cooper where they were offered in graphic design. And that was really the thing that kind of helped me get start on my way.
Interesting. So, this was long before computers, right? I'm guessing then and all that stuff. So everything was being done by hand, right? So
Yes.
what did the drawing at the time, even from the fine art stuff, teach you that the software never could?
Well, being able to hold a pencil in your hand
Mm,
and have a piece of paper in front of you and using your eye-hand coordination,
mm,
I guess you would call it, you could start setting down the thoughts you had in your head and make them real, make them visual.
mm,
Um, and so I think that drawing is a quite an important aspect of anybody who wants to be in design. And I think a lot of it is maybe getting a bit lost um, when you don't have that connection between your eye, your hand, and the paper. When you have like a something that comes in between you, like a tablet
mm,
or something
mm,
else that
mm.
people are drawing on these days. I can't do that. It doesn't mean it's wrong if I can't do it, but it's just not in my makeup to give up the pencil and paper.
I think it's a beautiful way to be, and I think today it's too accessible to just jump on your computer, and with the pace of today's world, everyone wants everything right now. So it's easy to just jump on a computer, get an illustrator, smack something out, get it out there.
Yeah,
I love how you always
exactly.
say like I love that you say like pencil ideas and then computer, and I completely agree. I try and sketch as much as I can. I cannot sketch out word marks like you can with it blows my mind away in this book where you're showing the axis on which you draw things on when you're drawing something on a curve and you measure out all it's just it
The
blows
angles.
my mind. Like it blows my mind.
That part of working on the computer. Well, let me just say this. I w- Drawing with a pencil on paper is the one aspect of working that is still from that old world for me.
Mhm.
Uh, I do love working on the computer. It makes a lot of things possible that were impossible for me to do before. But I generally work in the same way I did, only substituting, let's say, Adobe Illustrator for well, like for example, working in layers on
Mhm.
Adobe Illustrator is the same for me as working with my ink on drafting film. That used to be the way I had to create my final art. And I would do that. They were actual layers, so it was a direct
Yeah.
translation for me. But I would never go back to trying to work that way anymore. Uh, the only thing, like I said, the only thing I would keep is working with doing my preliminary work with paper and pencil.
Yeah. I consciously try and make a mess with the work that I do. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like it's just like you said, the pencil, it allows you to create more mess. It's a lot more freeing. It's a lot more open and like what I love about your work too, and when you look at even just a collection of logos on the back, right, which I love as well. Do you know what I mean? I love the way it's designed. Um, the it's such an eclectic mix, but has such a Michael Direct style to it. But there's none of them's just a typeface you can type out on Illustrator. Everything's like a bespoke, crafted face, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't make that a hard and fast rule because sometimes if I have a lot of words to deal with and I don't have a lot of time, I might set some type and tweak it a little bit here and there.
Mhm, mhm,
But
mhm.
by and large, my thing is just to create the letter forms from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's just a very freeing thing that allows me to do things that you can't do with set type. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that there are now all sorts of filters that you can apply in Photoshop or Illustrator to put your type on a curve or
Mm, mhm.
do various things, and those are fine, but they're not the same as creating it when you're designing it yourself from scratch. When you stretch or bend a typeface, it always does things that you know really aren't right. Things get a little wonky,
Yeah.
and I feel that they're just trying to imitate the things that I do naturally,
Yeah. Yeah, that's my
but
point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it never really works 100% with
I
those
agree, and
filters.
that's what I was saying, like, kind of at the start about, like, it feeling like the proper way to do things, like, even on this, like, Toronto Blue Jays logo here, right, you can notice the way, like, the ends at the end and the O, it comes out a bit on the top of the curve, it's a different axis in it than the bottom of the curve, and you can see you've crafted in, it goes almost like this, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah,
Sorry about my
it's
terminology.
yeah, it's in when I do stuff like that, it's just kind of intuitive. It isn't like
Yeah.
book learning
Mm,
that I learned this about how to create those forms, but there's no book that'll tell you how to change the shape of an O when the whole thing is on a curve and you have these different axes.
mm.
It's just a lot of times I'm not sure what I'm doing or could explain how I did it, but I just know it's right.
Right. So we're gonna try and unpack this now and figure out how you have done it and how you have learnt all these things because you've had some
Mhm.
amazing mentors throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
So but I read that the first ever logo that you did was for Jaredco. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, that was actually I can't even remember if I was actually in high school yet when I did that. I might have been in high school, but my uncle was a kind of a salesman that drove around and selling stationery supplies. And
Mm.
I worked with him one summer. He drove me around with him, and we went to different locations. But at one point, he asked me about the company that he worked for. It's called Joseph Redegeld and Company, and he said, "Why don't you try designing a logo for us?" And it was something that just kind of like, okay, and there it was, and I did it, and I didn't really think that much about how I was going to do it, but it came out really. I mean, like when I look at it now, I see that I created these negative space arrows, which years
Yeah.
later
FedEx.
FedEx
Yeah,
used
yeah,
in their new logo.
yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying they copied me or anything, but it was you know, and I hadn't thought about having done that for many years, and I was just kind of shocked myself when I looked at it and put it in the book. I didn't even have a sample of it, but I found a sample uh, online, or somebody had for some reason had photographed that little kind of onion skin pad,
Mm, mm.
and there it was, and like that was really the very first thing I did like that, and
Wow.
it just flowed out naturally, and that I didn't even really give it a second thought at the time.
Amazing. And then, so from there, then, where are you at in your life there? Have you graduated Cooper Uni and then, and you're looking for an assistant job?
Um, when I graduated Cooper, actually, what happened was a friend of my mother knew that at this place called Photo Lettering that they were looking for somebody like to start,
Hmm.
and so I just went and with my portfolio that I had from Cooper Union, which had a couple of things that were letter form related,
Hmm.
um, and but I got the job right off the bat. And the job, I didn't know it at the time, but the guy that I was working with was became a very well-known lettering artist, Ed Bengat.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, he's like a legend in that world, and
yeah.
he taught me everything that I know about making letter forms when I became his assistant.
That's insane. For people who don't know, Ed Benguat did the Coca-Cola logo, the Esquire logo, New York Times logo, just to mention a few. Am I correct, Michael?
Probably the Coca-Cola, he probably redrew it. I mean, the Coca-Cola logo comes from back in
Well,
the
yeah, 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 yeah.
1800s, but he had took some of the old logos. I think the New York Times masthead, for example, and just
Mm-hmm,
refined them and made them really elegant and you
mm-hmm.
know, uh, so yeah, but he did many fonts and many just this like you could just go on and on about the jobs that he was known for. But living
Yeah,
legend.
that's crazy. Well, anyway, what a starting point, Michael. That sets you right, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Standing on the
yeah.
shoulders of giants
That
and all that good stuff.
but I
um,
didn't know it at the time, of course.
yeah, yeah. There's something beautiful in that as well.
I
That's
might have
crazy.
been
So,
intimidated if I knew that,
yeah,
you
well,
know.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. It kind of takes the edge off a little bit, right? It's a bit, it's kind of like, did you see his trajectory then as you was working alongside him? And then did you always stay in touch throughout your career? Did you check in with him much?
No, I didn't. I just, at the time, you know, he was kind of a crazy man, and
Yeah.
he was a pilot. He was kind of a ladies' man. He was just, and he could be very. His personality was very fiery, and
Interesting.
I probably was very intimidated by him. So it's like I didn't even have a thought that I could stay in touch with him afterwards because he was on a whole other level than I was
Yeah.
on. So I never really had that thought. Uh, um, so
Yeah. Yeah, man. He looks like a geezer. For sure. He looks
well,
like
he
he'd be
wasn't
a
a
good guy.
geezer at the time that I worked with him. He was probably in his like 40s or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I love hearing you say the word geezer. Um, amazing. And and again, talking about legends, right? You've even worked for the great Milton Glazier, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I did work with him, but he was more. I really liked him. He was more
Hmm.
hands off. He kind of after I left photo lettering. I guess Milton had called Ed Bengat that he needed somebody to draw this font for him. And it was a font that what he did was he had designed a poster for the Love and Spoonful with just the words, just the letters that made up the words for that poster.
Okay.
Um, and it was kind of a stencil styled face, but different than most stencils you'd see. And so he wanted to create a full font for that. So he called Ed. Ed told him, call this guy, Michael Durrett.
Hmm.
And he did. And so I went, he called me in, and there I was at Pushpin Studios. Um, when it was Milton and Seymour Quast basically. Uh, and so so then I was in that situation, actually working there at Pushpin Studios, just like pretty much a year out of college. Uh, and so that experience showed me how a successful design studio works, how they do things.
Mm,
So what a great experience that was. But Milton was, he just trusted me to do what I did, and he was very hands off and very, very laid back about the whole thing.
yeah.
Um, Seymour Quast, I got to know him a little while I was there too. He was much more serious and hands on, and although I wasn't really working with him. I could see the difference in their two personalities, and maybe that difference is why they got along so well.
Mm, mm. Wow, that's insane. How does it feel to have your name alongside their name now?
It doesn't. I still think that, yeah, that's not right.
Do- Humble, Michael, humble. I love it. Is there? I read that you mentioned Sol a lot in your book.
Oh,
Um,
Saul, yeah, he was my high school art teacher, and he's
right, okay,
probably
yeah,
the one person that was mostly responsible for the direction that I took.
yeah.
He was so encouraging
Mm,
and
mm.
so sharp. And he was an artist in his own right, although he mostly ended up teaching. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, you speak very highly of him in the book, and I think it's super important in it. Like, if you can, it's a blessing if someone can get a teacher like that from such an early age and inspired by and lit up by. Amazing. Moving into beat three and the word that everybody knows. And if you're a graphic designer listening to this podcast and you don't know who Michael is, you've definitely seen his work. There's a plethora of work in here that I had to go through and pick out just some of my favorites to speak about. You landed a project with the rock band Kiss. which again must have been surreal at the time, right? And the work feels like it could have been made yesterday. You know what I'm saying? And it could be probably your most famous pop culture work that you've done. So they hired you to create the artwork for the Rock and Roll Over cover, right? Um, how does one get a job like this, Michael? Tell me.
I had been working with this advertising agency. It was called Howard Marks Advertising, and I think the first thing they called me in for was they needed a logo for this group that they were working with called Stars. With instead of an S at the end, there was a Z, STARZ,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
and and that was really kind of crazy because the minute I got that assignment, I knew what I was going to do because I just saw it. This a very symmetrical
Yeah,
configuration within an actual star shape. And so that was the first thing I did for them. Then after that, I did a few other things that were not in any way related to entertainment or music. Um, just some, things that were fairly forgettable. Then one day they called me and they said they had this group called Kiss and they needed a cover. Would I be interested? And so, yes, okay. I didn't know anything about them, or I didn't know their music at all. So I went in to have a meeting with all four members and the agency, and basically they didn't know what they wanted.
yeah.
They just needed a great cover, and they liked the work that they had seen of mine, and so on. So at the meeting, I asked them what it is, what were they about, and they then went into how each of them was a character,
Mhm, mhm,
and what were those characters, and what was the story that they wanted to tell with that.
mm.
And so then I just thought, that's all I really need to know. And if that's the story they want to tell, I'll just this is it's just another thing that seemed to design itself. I mean, I just
Yeah.
thought um, I listened to a bit of their music, and it had this incredible dynamism and drive and loudness and excitement, whatever. So I just tried to somehow put that into what I came up with for the cover, and
Mate, it's
and
so cool.
also telling the story. But I didn't want to use photographs of them because I thought, how am I going to
Mm,
make this be a this whole thing just to be of a piece that doesn't look like there's photographs and then there's lettering and then there's something else and trying to just smash them all together. I needed to create one piece of iconic art that just was a statement and that it contained all those things. And that's how I came up with that.
yeah, it's so cool. Like people have got this work tattooed. How does that, big back pieces and that. I was expecting you, Michael, then to take your shirt off and be like, you've got it tattooed massive on your back. Um, is that not you? Is that not you? The photo in the book? Is that not your back?
No.
um, um, oh yeah, mate, it's so cool. I mean, it's amazing as well. What I love in the book, which again everyone should go and get because it's sick. It's so good. I love how you put the sketch next to the digitalized version, and I, you know, I love the, I love. How would you have done that? What would you have you just colored it in? Like what? Like how would you have created the sketch?
Before computers, if I needed to show a client what something was going to look like, either you had to do a piece of finished art first and have it, and then you take it to a place that can actually create a full color comp,
Okay.
or I can take my drawing and then take colored pencils and
Sick.
on a piece of vellum over my drawing.
Sick.
Um, uh, you mean sick in a good way, right?
Yeah. That's a good thing, mate. Sorry, excuse my terminology. Yeah, it is sick because, like, again, it's what
Um,
we were speaking about earlier. It's like I think designers now, especially now, like graduating and stuff. Like, as a kid, Michael, like like I said, I'd be redrawing like Simpson comics and like and everything. I'd sit with my grandma and we'd just sit for hours and I'd be coloring in and for some, I'm blessed to still be a creative to today, and I feel like I'm almost like relearning them things in a weird way, and
mhm.
trying to get off the computer as much as I can. I don't know if you know the lady, but I've recently just done a course with Annie Atkins in Dublin. She's a prop designer for like Wes Anderson films and like Steven Spielberg
Oh,
films and stuff like that.
mhm.
And it's really interesting again, like understanding, you know, how to create a sense of time and feeling through the work that you do and stuff, and embracing like all the wobbles that come. And I think when I look at these two like juxtaposed next to each other, sorry if you keep seeing me look away from the camera, it's because I can't help myself from looking at the book and like speaking into the context of what I'm speaking about. But there's just so many lovely like bits that have like scratched away and things, and it has like don't know, just a really nice tactile feeling, if I'm making sense. And it's still obviously just as beautiful when it goes graphic. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested in the process of it and it not being like, I don't know, too clean, if that makes sense.
Well, all that was available to me to do. I mean, if I
Yeah.
had my druthers, I would probably try to make it cleaner.
Yeah,
But
which
yeah,
is interesting.
but I know what you're saying. You know, I do like that kind of that crude quality
Yeah.
to certain things. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like when you screen print a poster and then you try and recreate that texture. I mean, you can get close to it, like if digitally and whatnot these days, but that beautiful little splodge where the ink didn't go, or like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like there's just a bit of grain in there and a bit of grit, what does feel really beautiful. It's really nice. I love your work, I really do. And it's like, going through here and like you've got such a diverse range of, work. So all the kind of covers you did for Time magazine, was they like an ongoing client?
At the time, yeah. There was w one art director there, Walter Bernard, who I would probably say was the best art director I ever worked with
Mm,
because other art directors, like I have done a lot of work for book covers. They're not really, there's not, I don't think I've gotten many or any in the book. But what would
mm,
usually happen is I would do a design for a book cover and give it to the art director, who would give it to the editor, and then the editor would
mm.
take it to the whoever the powers that be, and they would more times than not they would not sell my design. Walter would take a design that I went into Time magazine with, and he would sell it to the editors and explain to them why this was a good solution. And
Interesting.
so I really appreciate it when an art director would get behind what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do and explain it to essentially people who are really non-visual.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's one there's one yeah, there's one thing doing the work right, and then there's one thing selling it in. The
I'm not a good.
business.
I really appreciate when there's somebody like that because I'm not that good at at selling. I'm good at the making, but not the selling.
I think a lot of your work speaks for itself, Michael.
I would
There's not much
I would
words.
hope so, but you'd be surprised how some people they they have an assignment and they have a pre-existing vision of what they are expecting, and
Mm,
it's I almost never turn in what people are expecting because I go off on other tangents and try to do something that's not been seen before. Uh, but that doesn't. Sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I think you do achieve it though. Like, you know, like looking through again all these like beautiful little marks you've done and stuff like it. You know, you can see where the pushes are. And like I said, a lot of this is like unmistakably Michael Durrett, which I think is amazing too. How does it feel having like, you know, your logos on the 1987 World Series baseball? Like that's a wild little thing to do a logo for.
Yeah, it's like so many points in my career where I did a job and I didn't really
Yeah,
consider the ramifications of if this gets out there and it's seen everywhere. Uh, it just never occurs to me at the time. It's always like afterwards, like with the Knicks logo. It's like, oh, really? I had no idea that this was, and that was 35 years in the making.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a lovely transition into talking about the Knicks logo. So you designed one of the most recognizable logos in basketball, period. And even more so at the minute, because they've just won the championship, which has been crazy as an Englishman in New York. Pardon the song reference. It's been like wild to see, you know, like I live and work in Manhattan, so you know the parade and all that stuff. And this is
Mm,
the only year where I follow. There was so much hype around it, so I had to follow the playoffs. And since being in America and in New York, I have really taken a liking to basketball. The first game that I went to was a Liberty game, and I just fell in love with it. And
mhm.
then I've been to a couple Nets games. I've not actually been to a Knicks game. And prices were getting crazy, and I can imagine they're going to be even crazier next season now with the hype. Um, but yeah, like it's been everywhere, everywhere. The Knicks logo has been everywhere, even more so. So, like, how does it even feel, Michael, to see your work at this scale?
It's like what's the expression? Pinch me, or
Yeah.
just to make sure I'm not dreaming, because again, that's something that you don't expect it, and for the most part, those things don't happen.
Mm,
But it's happened for me several times in my career where you do something, it's a job. You try to
mm,
do the best you can, and then you turn it in and you get paid, and then years later something happens, and it becomes like this thing. I wish I could have gone to New York just to be part of that. But at the same time, when this started happening, I was like, for example, I got a call from you, but there were like many others that re requests for interviews, and I felt that, oh, what, I better stay around here, because if I'm not
mm,
here, I'm not gonna get this. I'm not gonna be able to do all this stuff, which in the end I think would be good for me to do
mhm.
these interviews and stuff. I had a thing in New York Magazine and Fast Company, um, Spectrum.
I've seen that.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's been wild, and not something I would have ever anticipated. And I'm still kind of learning how to deal with it.
Yeah, I bet. At the time, the I mean, looking through your sketch here, the brief was kind of open, I read, but it was a very laborious process over a good few months. I seen that you just done a collab with Kif. Well, Nick's just done a collab with Kif, right? And they utilized all these sketches I'm looking at now for the collection. Did they send you all the collection?
They did, yeah. There's a lot of their collection. Their clothes are so oversized. Like like if I'm gonna wear anything, it has to be an extra small.
You
Um,
kill me. I seen you in a video looking hella cool in the varsity jacket and the hat and you know what I mean? I love it, Michael. It's cool, it's sick. And that must be nice because it's a very labor intense process, right? And then all these years later to be able to see this work have a new life on a collection with Kith and, you know, see all these, you know, these old marks and these old sketches that you've done celebrated. I think that must feel nice.
so what was especially interesting about that whole thing was that I it forced me to go back and revisit my old sketches that were
Yeah.
done 35 years ago and try to put my head into that same place where I was then
Yeah.
because I had to complete. There was about a dozen of them of the alternate logos, and to get my head into that space where I was back then. And so I decided that when I worked these up again, that I wasn't going to try to improve them or do things the way I would do them now, but just try to just recreate. If I had done those finishes back then in 1991, what would I have done? You know, I just didn't want to apply my other, my contemporary way of thinking to something I did 35 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. So all the learnings and then you try to take out all them beautiful kind of, I guess, um, and not imperfections, that's not the right word, I guess, but you know, the nuances, I guess, that you've learned maybe not to do through the
It's just,
years, maybe or something.
it's just different than I
Yeah.
probably would have
Yeah.
done it right now.
Yeah, yeah, naturally from your learnings. It's really cool. What I love as well about seeing a process is obviously the Empire States in a lot of the old versions. And but what I love about the final logo is that it feels like, you know, when you're walking around New York, you're always like this in it. Like I always remember when I first got here, a taxi driver told me one bit of advice to a new person moving to New York is don't look up too much and don't stand there on the street on the sidewalk and just look up. But it's a net breaker, and I love when you look at the logo. It feels like you're looking up at New York, but just typographically. That is a really nice, bigger than life essence to the mark. Do you know what I'm saying? Even
Yeah,
as you can see on my hat there now. Um, yeah,
they
it's
should
really
have
cool.
left. They should have left that the Empire State Building in into that version of the logo. It really needed it.
Yeah. So would you was for the Empire State, wasn't you?
Yeah.
And it was going to be
They also
MY.
there was a suggestion to use the Statue of Liberty and or the Madison Square Garden itself, but those really wouldn't work.
Yeah, I agree. I think the nice thing about the Empire State is that when you walk out of MSG, you break your neck looking at the Empire State Building.
Yeah,
So it,
yeah,
you
it's
know what
right
I'm
there.
saying? It's quite a nice thing. But again, just in awe of the old pencil sketches that are coloured in with drawing pencils and stuff. I just think they're so beautiful. And have they given you courtside tickets ever?
When I did the logo, yes, they did.
Yeah, back then, yeah. So have
We
you
were
never
down
hit them
there.
up No, you didn't get no like special finals tickets or anything like that recently.
Um, what happened when I did the thing with Kith? Uh, that was fall of 24.
Yeah.
Uh, I had a whole we couldn't coordinated with Kith, and we did an actual book. That's when my book came out, and so
Okay.
we had a book signing there up in one of the lounges, and we weren't courtside for the game, but we were in one of the
Nice.
fancy boxes, you know.
Yeah, we'll take it, Michael. Nice. Well deserved. Do you know what I mean? I was expecting you to tell me you had a lifetime ticket there. You should have a seat with your name on it.
No such luck.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I hope they see this. I think a lot of your work is very well referenced and moving on to the secondary logo that you did for the Knicks as well. I love how you took a piece of New York's ephemera and reappropriated that for a secondary mark for the logo. So, like, how did that come about, and how did that happen?
That actually was an idea of mine. At when I was developing all the different versions of the next logo, I thought that they might be able to use a simpler version of the logo. Maybe not even simpler, but maybe just something that could reproduce very small or for certain applications. And so I gave them, there were several monograms that I did with NYK. And then I hit on the idea of using the token, just switch out the C for a K.
Mm.
And but at the time didn't um, they didn't think that was something that they wanted, so they passed on it. But then it like years later it kind of resurfaced.
So did you just see it randomly then? They took the
I,
logo
I,
off you but didn't use it?
yeah, they did, but what happened was a friend of mine had been watching a game because I wasn't really a big um, sports fan at that point, so I wasn't really paying attention. They told me
Mhm.
they're using that token logo, and so
That's
uh, do
wild.
you want do you want me to talk about what happened with that?
Please, please.
Because when I called the NBA, which is who I did the work for. I didn't do it directly for the team. Uh, I called them, and they immediately denied that I had done it. Because I think probably what happened was people move on, uh, positions change, and I
Mm.
think that nobody there really knew who had done it. They just found it in their files and said, "Oh, why don't we do this?" You know. So they denied that I had done it because they just didn't know. And so what happened was that a year or so earlier, I had a request to submit some of my work to a book that was about jobs that never happened. And at that point, I submitted some of the work that I had done for the Knicks that just didn't happen. And that was the one thing that they published in the book was the token logo. So it was actually copyrighted in their book before they
Shit.
started using it. So
Yeah, nice.
they really had no recourse but to pay me. But they said
Nice.
if you want us to pay you, you'll never work for the NBA again. And so, well, we all know that didn't actually happen anyway. Be-
Whoa, that's a fucking ultimatum. That's wild. Wait, whoa. So if you wanted to get paid from justifying that you did the logo mark in the first
yeah, yeah.
place, you're not allowed to work with the NBA ever again.
No, because they don't like people confronting them, I guess, at that point. But you know what? Everything has changed over there. Those people are gone.
Mhm.
So, and as you know, I'm still working with the NBA.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's wild, and I think it's crazy as well because, like, I'm glad things have changed now and things are in a different place. You are working with them now. Yeah, obviously you still collaborate
Well,
with them now.
all the stuff I did with Kith had to go through them.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and it was cool.
Yeah. And just this little thing I did with Spectrum, I had
Yeah,
to go
yeah, that
through
was
them
cool as well.
as well.
I seen that. That was cool. Um, yes, I mean, it's crazy because it undervalues what we do as designers as well. Do you know what I mean? And think I mean, even
Par
just
for the
looking,
course.
even yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I'm looking at. the geezer wearing it on the towel on his head here. And think how many times that logo gets reprinted. That's a that's a beacon for the brand. That's what people see. That's your Batman logo in the sky. You know what I mean? That people just think, you know what I mean? That is yeah. It's a shame to hear that that was the process, but so did they pay you though?
Yeah, not a hell of a lot, but it's the principle more than anything else that they
Yeah, yeah.
should acknowledge that that they're using this work that I did.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be uh nobody should be stealing that.
No way. You know, what I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy to think as well, like how big these associations are and these brands are, and they just don't. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to me, but well, I'm glad things are on the up now, and fingers crossed as you know,
Yeah.
you do more, and you get more work from them, maybe under the right circumstances, of course. But amazing. And just to quickly finish things off on the work, I mean, again, it was hard for me to choose, mate. Do you know what I mean? There's so much stuff I would love to. I could keep this podcast going all day with what's in this book, but I would love to speak about your work with Walt Disney, and specifically the Wreck It Ralph logo, one of my favorites. So cool. Yeah, how did that come about?
The creative director there at Disney, we met through a mutual friend, and then we uh, just became friends on a social level. But then he realized that he needed some logo work, and his philosophy was he was at Disney. They have unlimited budgets, basically.
Yeah,
Why
I
not
bet.
hire the very best? And that's what he did. Is photographers, designers, whoever he was going to hire, he just got the best people. Uh, so we started working together, and Wreck-It Ralph was the very first project I worked on with him, and um, and it was the only project that actually went through to completion and actually was used for the promotion of the film. I think that yeah, and it was a very different type of logo than anything they had done before.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think, and when I did further work with John, his name is John Sable. Uh, I wouldn't like try to cut back on anything and just give him the best stuff I could do. And I think that was a problem for Disney because it was not looking like all their other logos, the
Mhm,
work that I
mhm.
was doing.
Yeah.
It was just, I guess they just couldn't handle that. Uh, so then Wreck-It Ralph became the only one of all that stuff that actually went through.
But yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. So obviously the Wreck-It Ralph one was inspired by like Japanese pixelated graphics, right?
Yeah.
That was the reference point. And again, it's so cool. I love the it's amazing seeing the iterations of like his different face expressions and stuff in the book. But yeah, so obviously you did concepts for Zootopia, for Inside Out, Coco's one of my favorite, Moana. Um, yeah, mad. And so like none of these went through.
No.
That's wild. It's nice that you've got them to show though. Do you know what I mean? Some of these are beautiful. I love the Papel Picado one
Well,
for Coco.
yeah, it's kind of interesting now that even if something doesn't get used, you can still somehow get it out there and let people see, what you've
Yeah. Mm,
tried to do.
yeah. Yeah, really cool. Like I said, amazing. What a plethora of work there, and you're still going. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's crazy. When's book number 2 coming out?
I don't think so.
Nothing there. Well, as you probably see me on this podcast, like looking down a lot, I've got Michael's book here, and you really should get this. This should be in your design book collection if you collect design books, and it's a great coffee table book as well. Like it is really good. I've been reading through a lot of it with my partner, and yeah, it's wild. So I've got to ask, moving into the last beat now, legacy. Out of all the work that you've done, Michael, what stands out to you the most and why?
Hmm. Well, I don't know that there's a single piece that I could
Okay.
name that stands out. I just feel grateful that I've been able to do what I do and have it be different than probably most other designers would do and have it accepted. Uh, and
Yeah.
I just don't understand how that happened because those type of things don't usually happen. But I'm just so grateful that that my work has received such acceptance. I'm also a little sad that I haven't really. I mean, I've just always been a single um, solitary designer, and my studio's never been more than just me. And if I had expanded somehow, had other people working with me, I probably could have been on projects that were exponentially bigger than the things that I've worked on. But that's my only regret. But I don't think that I would have ever submitted myself to just becoming an administrator in Michael Dorette Inc. or something.
Mm.
Uh, I enjoy what I do. It's part of who I am, and I don't know what else I can say about that. I mean, obviously things like the Knicks logo or Kiss, which have become so much like icons in their respective fields. I'm very grateful for that, but I don't know that those are my favorite things that I've done. There are many things that I like for many different reasons.
Mhm. Understandably, that I mean, that's where I was kinda getting to. Is it the Jordico one, the first ever look, that the seminal ones, the ones that it's always the ones, it's never, I knew it was gonna be the Knicks when you said, "Oh, the Kiss, album covers," or anything like that. I didn't know if there was just, like, some obscure one you did for a friend's friend, and it was like a her and more, but yeah.
Well, I would say there's one piece that I think was kind of like that, and that would be the cover I did for this Japanese graphics magazine called Idea. And that piece was the basis for how I did and designed the Kiss cover.
Ah, nice.
If you look at the two of them, you'll see how they relate to each other.
Yeah, nice.
But that was a
Nice.
very early piece that I did that is still one of my favorites.
Yeah, nice. So you spent over 50 years doing this. Um, do you still get excited by a beautiful bit of signage?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
it. I knew it. I love it. Do you collect ephemera? Do you collect any of this stuff that you see, and you're always taking pictures of things these days and stuff like that, or do you just let it, like when you was a kid? Do you just absorb it all and it just flows through your work?
Well, I mostly over my career, rather than collecting actual pieces, I would just collect books about it. So
Okay,
I'd have
nice.
a
Mm,
lot of material, compressed into a smaller space.
hmm.
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, there's no category of thing that I would collect. Every things that I might get at a swap meet, they'd be more like one-off types of things. Like
Yeah.
the oh, that's really neat, or that's really nice looking. But I'm not going for a category. Like I'm not
Yeah.
collecting
Hmm.
like monkeys or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
pigs
yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
You don't
something.
collect it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Your wife's an illustrator. Do you ever do any personal projects together? Do you collaborate much?
We We did collaborate years ago, but more in the commercial world, where we would
Yeah.
maybe uh, get an assignment that for which a client might have a larger budget, so enough to pay
Yeah.
both of us,
Yeah, nice.
where we might do a cover or a poster together. There's one in there in the book where there was a proposal for uh, this theatrical production of Damn Yankees that we worked on together, where she did the portrait of the head, and I designed everything around it. And we usually would do very interesting collaborations, and they would work well because we see things in the same way.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Nice. I mean, again, out of all the work that you've done, is there a dream brand that you've not worked on yet?
I would, I think I could do very interesting like wine labels or liquor labels.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of like a canvas that I think could be really open to doing some interesting things. And there are a lot of interesting things being done like that now as well. I see all
Mm,
the time if I walk into a liquor shop, uh, really interesting things being done. So that's an area I wouldn't mind working in, but I haven't had
yeah.
the opportunity.
That really does surprise me, That really does surprise me. I'm sure something like that will come. I'm hoping the podcast world,
Yeah.
hopefully this goes wild. Um, and again, in reflection, on your legacy, like, what would you consider as your biggest success?
I would say the work I did with Time magazine,
Yeah.
in terms of big, I
Mhm.
mean
Mhm.
that's international.
Yeah.
I love what I did. And the other thing is the stamps I've done for the postal service.
Yeah, they're awesome. I didn't. They would. I did. I've got them. I've got them sticky noted here. Actually, we didn't get a chance to talk about them, but they're beautiful as well. But again, like I love the actual printed one when all the texture comes through and the
Yeah,
actual lines. You know what I mean and stuff. Like really cool. Yeah, that's wild. Think how many times that's been printed and put on postage, and people have received that. How does it feel sat there now with the book out, in LA, West Coast, people hitting you like can you capture simply how it feels now? Like how does it feel looking back?
um, it feels like it's just all of a sudden, right, like right now that everything is kind of blown up. Like
Mm.
I was leading a very quiet existence.
Just keeping yourself to yourself.
And
Yeah,
then this.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, I think, well deserved if that's the right thing to say, because I think you should get your flowers, Michael. I can't thank you enough for sharing these bits with me today, and I'm hoping my listeners take something from this. And it's one thing that I've taken away from it, like I don't think the best ideas are found on a screen, or reassured that I already know that the best ideas are found on a screen. And it's from paying attention to the world around us, whether it be signage, whether it be
Yeah,
shop fronts, whether it,
yeah,
and how these kind of like memories kind of like get absorbed, and take notice of these things you're taking notice of, and maybe play with, the stuff in your own work, and let that inspire you, and so the last question, when you're looking back, what do you think your mum would think?
I I'm hoping she would be proud of me. That
I'm
what
sure she
else
will be.
can you say?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I am
And
sure
my
she would
dad
be.
and my dad too.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, of course. And your wife's mum is nearly, well, is 100, right?
Yes. She's
That's
turning
pretty
100
crazy.
in about a month.
That's crazy. Well, big up all the mums. And Michael, again, I can't thank you enough for today. You've lit me up inside. I look forward to seeing what you do next. And for everyone listening, go and get Michael's book again. This brilliant book, Growing Up in Alphabet City. It's packed with more stories from Michael. I love the way it's written. and just the little, I love the bit, the annotations, what say, I didn't want to put this in there, but my editor made me put this in there, and stuff like that, like all the little bits in it. You know, again, packed with stories, sketches, and lessons from one of the greatest lettering artists of our time. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. Everyone, that's how you create logos that become iconic and last forever. I hope you're as little as I am. Please do like, share, subscribe, run it up. What does your mum think to the world, people? Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.